And now okay, now, okay, got it. Yay. All right, bye, Bonnie. Yay. Okay, okay. I can drink my coffee. Hi, everybody.
All right, hold on. I was just told that you guys could hear me, but not Iris. Testing.
I
Can you
can hear
guys?
you. I can hear you fine.
Okay. The group couldn't hear us,
Okay, got it.
the live stream. So we'll give it a moment and see if everybody can hear us now. So Iris, test it one more time.
Hi, Bonnie.
Okay. So just give it a moment. Make sure everybody can hear us. I'm thinking so because Dave didn't come back to say that it was a problem. Okay, so back to what we were saying. So we're a little behind today from technology issues. So shamanism, what is it exactly? And my guest speaker today is Iris-Valkyrie, the Dragon Rider. She is an amazing woman, and I have her on today to talk about what is shamanism, what she, specifically wants to talk about, her business, how she helps people, and what inspired her to do this. So, we'll take it one moment at a time, but welcome, Iris. I'm so glad you're able to join
Thanks,
us
Bonnie.
today. So, so for our viewers and our future viewers, talk about shamanism. Like, why is that important?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about me first, and a little bit about my journey so that you'll know where I'm coming from.
Wonderful.
So I'm a nurse practitioner by training, a women's healthcare nurse practitioner by training, and about probably 15, 20 years ago, I was at a conference and I was on the committee, and I had to sit in on one of the workshops. And one of the workshops was on Reiki and reflexology, of which I knew absolutely nothing.
Mm.
I thought it was hocus pocus. I thought it was bullshit. I thought it was really ridiculous. So I had to sit in on this ridiculous workshop just to make sure that the guy needed, if he needed AV stuff, I was available to help with that. So at the very end of the workshop, because there were two, it was back to back, he asked me if I ever had Reiki done. And I said, no. And he put his hands on my shoulders and he said, you're going through some life changes right now. And he told me some other things about me, which was startling and amazing because it was true. And two of my friends were with me, my colleagues, and they were looking at me. And I said, this is unbelievable. And he just put his hands on the back of my neck and my shoulders, and I felt great. So about 3 weeks later, I live in Bucks County, and Bucks County Community College came out with their non-credit courses. And one of the courses that was listed was Reiki. And it was just too funny and too bizarre and too unbelievable and very, I believe in the notion of synchronicity. So, of course, I signed up. And then Reiki 1 became Reiki 2, became Reiki 3, and then I became a Reiki master teacher. So from there, I kind of moved into Reiki work, and then also a lot of work around theta healing and beliefs, and that we can change our belief system on various levels, on our core level, our history level, our soul level, and our genetic level. Because a lot of the beliefs that we have are beliefs from childhood that were ingrained in you when you were a little kid. You're not good enough, or don't do that, or shut up, or kids should be heard, kids should be seen, not heard.
Mm.
And we carry that baggage with us. um, the issues around financial and money kind of stuff. Money's the root of all evil. And are those beliefs really true? They're just ingrained in us. And until we can change them and alter those beliefs, we carry those ancestral patterns with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I was drawn into Facebook like everybody else. And I came upon these wonderful gifted healers who actually live in India. My teacher is American. He grew up in America, and he met his wonderful soulmate and his soul flame, and they reside in India. So I took beginner shamanism with them. I took advanced shamanism with them. I took an ancestral healing course with them. I did a spiritual program with them in Sedona, which was pretty amazing. And then 2 years ago, I completed a year-long course with them on the medicine wheel, and working with the medicine wheel, and working with guides and intuitives.
Did you have to travel to India to take those courses?
No, everything was interesting. A lot of things are done in person, but I'm not flying to Mumbai, and I'm not flying to New Delhi. So for me, everything was online, and it's a closed classroom. Everything is on Zoom. So it made my life a little easier. It made their life a little easier, and they were incredibly accommodating because there's a 9.5-hour time difference between where they are and where I am.
Yeah.
So we had to work around schedules.
That makes sense. And I love, that you come from a medical background, so, for this to come into your wheelhouse, like you said, you thought it was strange. You thought it was like, what is this nonsense? Like I hear that quite a bit from medical people who kind of stumble upon Reiki or even MFR, and don't know much about Reiki or the spiritual stuff, just myofascial release, people come into it like, what is happening with these people? What is happening here? But yet it's so important. And some of the key stuff that you talked about there about the belief systems that were ingrained within us, like that is the cornerstone of mental health therapy as well, how much that affects us. So.
And I think too, Bonnie, like you and I both know, because you've had this conversation before, a lot of it comes down to, yes, people have interesting illnesses, they have interesting things that happen to them, but a lot of times things happen because it's when you look at the word disease, I like to put it in half, and DIS/EASE. So your body becomes a diseased state. You're not in alignment. You're not where you need to be. And I'll give you the perfect example. About probably 6 years ago, it was 6.5 years ago, actually, 6 years ago in May, I was in the Poconos, and I was getting lower back pain. And, I chalked it up to, I was in the shower when it happened. I didn't bend. I didn't move. I just kind of experienced low back pain, which was very unusual because I never had lower back pain before. And on our way home from the Poconos, I was literally in excruciating pain. I mean, my back it was horrible. And my daughter called our chiropractor, and he met us at his office on a Sunday evening, and I was lying flat on my back because I was in so much pain. And he saw me shimmy out of the car, and he looked at me and goes, I'm not even going to touch you. You need an MRI because you have major herniation in your discs. So long story short, I ended up with major herniated discs to the point where I couldn't sit for basically 3 months. So I was laying flat on my back, and I was working with an energy healer in New Jersey, and we did a phone conversation, and she said to me, what is going on? What's going on in your life? Not with your back, but what's going on generally, and what led up to this? And I remember saying to her, I'm the backbone of my family. My parents, who have now transitioned, are in Florida, but every time they get sick or every time I get a phone call from the hospital, I fly down right away. And I just am there for support. And then she said, wait a minute, what did you just say? And I said, oh my God. I remember this vividly. I said, oh my God, I'm the backbone of my family and my back just broke.
Yeah.
And that was just an incredible revelation, because if you look at people and illnesses and disease states, maybe there's a strong correlation sometimes between what's going on in their lives. Sometimes there are, sometimes there's not. But sometimes it's what's the lesson to be learned from this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
no, I absolutely believe that. The mind affects the body and the soul. The soul affects the mind, the body affects the mind, the soul. So it's intertwined
Correct.
within itself. And then how we're perceiving things, how are we
Right.
handling things?
Right.
What are those prior belief systems? What are our physical restrictions that we already have? So it all just dovetails with each other.
And what restrictions do we put on ourselves, consciously or subconsciously?
Absolutely.
So I'll share with you something funny. 2 weeks ago, my grandson said to me, he goes, Gammy, how do I activate my third eye? And he's 9 years old. And I said, Max, how'd you hear about the third eye? He goes, I saw it on YouTube. We all know that YouTube is filled with millions of resources. And yet for this 9-year-old to pick up something on the third eye was very interesting.
Yeah.
So we talked about that a little bit. The next day I taught him, we did some meditation, and he told me that it really relaxed him. And then last week he slept over and he woke up around 12:30. He was a little bit upset, and I Reiki'd him. And the next morning I said, you know what, Max, do you want Gammy to teach you Reiki? So he goes, yes. So his eyes got really big and he said, yeah. So, did I teach him Reiki like I would teach adults? No.
Mm-hmm.
But I attuned him to level 1 Reiki. I taught him the hand positions. We talked about the chakras. And I taught him the Reiki principles. And I said to him, because I really don't believe in certificates. I mean, knowledge is knowledge and that's it. But I said, Max, do you want a certificate that said that you are a level 1 Reiki practitioner? He goes, yeah. So I printed him out the certificate. I printed him out the Reiki principles, and I printed him out the chakras and what colors they stand for and where they are. Well, this kid was so excited. I mean, he came home, and then my son called me on Saturday and goes, you can't believe what happened. I go, what happened? He goes, Frankie, their dog, who's 9, wasn't feeling well. He wasn't eating. So Max said to my son, Grant, Frankie didn't look good, Dad, so I Reiki'd him. And then he got up and he ate his breakfast.
But it's so true, especially with animals. Animals don't think, so they don't have to get out of their mind space, So you could do a second work on animals and they feel great, like it's great. It's wonderful. I love it.
So let's get back to shamanism for a little bit.
Yes.
Shamanism is a spiritual practice. It's the oldest practice in the world. And it really is all about your soul, and it's about walking in beauty and also looking at the gifts around us and acknowledging that everything in life has spirit and a soul. So that when you walk by a tree and it's blowing in the breeze, you can thank the tree for dancing in front of you. If you're walking and you see a beautiful bird, say thank you. If the bird is singing a song, thank it for a song. Because everything has spirit. Everything shows up in our lives for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you incorporate and you do everything in your life with intention. And the important thing about shamanism is being, and with a capital B-E, to just be. And to not put off things, and to act as if, and to act with intention, and to act with grace. And there's different elements of shamanism. Again, we believe everything has spirit, and you walk in balance with nature and with everything around you. So when I do a journey for somebody, or when I do a journey for other people, I put myself into a state. I may smudge the room. I may not. I may drum. I may not. I may rattle. I may not. But I do call in my power animals and my spirit guides. And we all have power animals and we all have spirit guides. And for some of you who don't understand what spirit animals might be, they're not domesticated animals. They're not your dog. They're not your cat. They're not your turtle, your lizard, your fish. But they're animals who live in the wild, who've not been tamed by humans. And they may be mythical creatures as well. It might be Pegasus. It might be a dragon. It might be whatever. Mm-hmm. But these are things that you might be seeing in your daily life. For example, I knew what my power animal was. And then about a year before my mother transitioned, I kept on seeing signs for wolves. I backed up and there was a car behind me and its license plate had a wolf on it. I'm driving down 95. There's a sign about a wolf business. I was seeing pictures of wolves, and the number 3 in shamanism is very important. If you see something 3 times, you need to acknowledge it. Mm. So I did some work on the wolf and realized that, and I've always had an affinity for wolves, but this really brought it home to me, that wolves are very strong. Hi, dog.
Peter's saying hi for a moment.
Wolves are very strong when it comes to the family, and there's a family pack. And wolf honors their elders. And the day that my mom transitioned, she was in hospice in Florida. And I walked into the elevator at work, and I could see there was a pack of wolves around in a circle, and they were howling. Mm. And this is an image that I saw. And I thought it was very interesting because I kind of knew that my mother was going to be transitioning soon. She was in hospice. She had been in hospice for 5 days. And that afternoon, I came home and I got a call from hospice around 4:30. Mm. So for some of you who are in, virtual land, are there any animals that you feel close to? Are there any animals that you see? Are there pictures that you're drawn to? And so it would be important to discover what these animals hold. Mm-hmm. What do they represent? And what can they teach you? Because our power animals, not only are there for us to protect us and to guide us, but there's also valuable lessons in what they have to say to us. That also holds true for your spirit guides. I was in my advanced shamanism course, and 2 guides came to me, and I had no idea who they were. I mean, these names just popped up, and I was clueless with a capital C. Mm-hmm. And then when I did some research on them, one of them happened to be a very famous and well-known Lakota spiritual leader. Mm. And I have some history with the Lakota tribe from probably way back when. And he just happened to come up in one of my journeys, not knowing anything about him. This name just popped up, and I realized, oh, this is very interesting because there was a strong connection with the Lakota tribe. So a shamanic journey can help you find your power animals. It can help you find your spirit guides. It can also help you with an intention, so that when I would go on a journey for you, you would tell me what your intention might be. You would tell me what you would like to clear up. You would tell me what you'd like to know. So I would go on a journey and get the answers that you seek. And a lot of times the answers are in metaphors. Mm-hmm. It's not as simple as, am I going to get into Harvard? Yes or no? It's more like, what direction is my life going in? Yeah. And it may show an eagle. It may show a mountain. It may show a sky or blue water. And what do those things mean to you? Because a very important thing with shamanism is that you become a hollow bone, so that it is not my job to interpret for you. Because an eagle, a mountain, a babbling brook means different things to me than it does to you. Mm-hmm. So if I did a journey for you, let's say, Bonnie, and said, oh, I saw a mountain and I saw an eagle and I saw a babbling brook. Mm-hmm. I could say, so Bonnie, what does that mean to you? If you think of a babbling brook, an eagle, or a mountain, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And then you would tell me, right? Which might be very different for what it means for me. Mm-hmm. Another thing with shamanism and with energy work is peeling away those onions. If you think about Shrek, the movie, and peeling away the onion layers, mm-hmm. because we all have layers. And the important thing is to get rid of those outer shells, outer layers, out of everything, and really get to the core. Mm-hmm. Because until we get to the core of what's going on, healing really can't take place.
Yeah. That's a very powerful statement. Yeah. Because we want people to fix, right? Most of the mentality is fix me, Yeah,
and my job is not to fix you. Yeah. My job is to help you fix yourself. Because I'm a conduit for spirit, if you think about it in those ways. You're not broken. I mean, we're not a radio. We're not a TV. We don't call the repairman to fix you. Mm-hmm. And the only way that you can fix and heal is going through some muck. And that was a word I used to use a lot when I was going through my training. Wading through the muck and then coming through like the lotus.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you get through that muck, the lotus will bloom.
Yeah.
And we all have muck. I mean, we're all stuck in muck. It's like no one's except for the guy who's sitting on the mountain in the Himalayas. Everybody pretty much has muck.
Yeah. Well, if you're alive, at least, right? If you've lived at all.
And we have to get through that. I mean, monks may not have muck because they live a spiritual life, but the majority of us have muck.
Yeah.
And we've got to get through that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So just a quick question, when you were saying that, everything is spirit, right? And, shamanism is a way of living and being, the BE, right? To be. As you were saying that, what was interesting was what was popping in my head was, if that's the case, then should I feel bad because I eat meat and chicken, and steak, because I'm taking this, life, I'm eating this soul.
No, but you could thank that chicken and you could thank that meat for giving nourishment to your soul.
Okay. All right.
Because some of us do need protein.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of us crave that protein, and what you can do is it's the same thing. When you pick flowers, for example, if you're outside and you're picking flowers, you can thank the flowers for being, because you're picking them, and you're taking away their life source energy from the ground. And yes, you're going to give them water and put them in your, in your kitchen or wherever, but they're not going to live forever, unfortunately, in your kitchen or your dining room, wherever you put them. So you can thank them for that. Something that I talk to people about is doing a nature walk. And if you go out in nature and you find a tree, if no one's around or if you don't feel self-conscious, there are times that you can just touch the tree and say, tell me about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And see what messages you get. If you find a stone that you like, ask permission to take it from Earth Mother and say, tell me about yourself. And sometimes the stone will say, no, I'd rather stay here, and that's okay. And sometimes the stone will say, yeah, I want to go home with you because I have something to teach you.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say for somebody who, let's say they tried that, right? They found this stone out in the world. It's beautiful, it reminds them of so many things, or just really likes the color. And they sat there and they're like, can I take this stone? And they weren't sure. They took it anyway, right? Because they don't feel connected. They don't feel like they heard anything. And then things started going really terribly wrong in their life. And now they think they're cursed. Would you think that is tied to that? Or is that just that person's perceived belief about it?
It could be a perceived belief, or you could say, and a lot of times too, if you're taking something from the ground, there are Native Americans or First Nation people will take something and then replace it with tobacco. Mm. Or I just offer a prayer and say, thank you so much for allowing me to take this home with me, because I don't carry tobacco with me. But you can thank the universe as well. People's belief systems are very, very different. Mm-hmm. In shamanism, there's no such thing as fear.
And that's a scary word for a lot of people.
Fear doesn't exist. And I will give you another example. We were climbing up to the one of the vortexes in Sedona. And to get up there, it's actually, you climb up this path, and there were chain links that you can actually use to help yourself up, because it's fairly steep. So there were 6 of us in our group, plus our 2 teachers. And we're climbing up, which was fine. And the view was breathtaking. And you can really feel the sense of being on a vortex. So I was laying on top of the rock because I wouldn't stand because I have an issue with height. And my power animals are coming in and I'm feeling really calm. And then I'm overcome with this sense of fear. Mm. And the fear was, oh my God, I'm on top of this mountain or whatever we were on top of. How the hell am I going to get down? Because I have a fear of height.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds steep. So.
And then I couldn't slide down because, I probably could slide down, but who wants to slide down? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, this is not good. This is not good. This is not good. And I'm getting myself in a frenzied panic. Like, this is not good. Like, what am I going to do? And then I kind of said, you know what? Get a hold of yourself, get a grip. And then Lion appeared to me. Lion is not one of my power animals, but Lion appeared to me and said, you can do this. You got this. And then my teacher said that he was heading down. And I said to him, I said, Paul, is it okay if I go behind you? Knowing, and I said to him, I just need to walk behind you. I'm going to walk very slowly because I have a fear of height. But I'm going to take it slow, and I can do this because I have people with me. I have my guides with me, and I know I can do this. And I walked down very slowly, and I held on to the rope, not the rope thing, but the metal thing. And I did it. And it was like, wow. So if you take the word fear, my new version of fear is feeling energetic and resourceful. Because there really is, fear is an unconscious thing in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we see fire, yes, fire can kill people, fire can do things. But if you're paralyzed, you grab the extinguisher, you grab water, you throw it on, it's extinguished.
Right.
There are things that you can, there are situations where fear arises,
mm-hmm.
but what can you do to kind of deal with that fear?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes fear paralyzes us.
Absolutely.
And leads to inaction.
Yeah. Dave and I went to Sedona, and for those that have never been to Sedona,
it's amazing.
It really is amazing. We had gone to Phoenix, so we flew into Phoenix, and then we rented a car and drove to Sedona for a week. And once you come around this one curve into Sedona, the energy shifts completely. It really does. And for those that, maybe don't feel energy, or maybe kind of feel like, kind of that, like, what is this hocus pocus stuff, even people in goosebumps, even people in those kind of mindsets, it's this peace that comes over you as soon as you go into the rocks of Sedona. It is the most beautiful feeling in the world. And if you allow yourself to experience, some things there, it can be very life-changing. And I think that's why a lot of people move to Sedona in the end, because why would you move there? But it's very limited, but it is very spiritual, and it feels amazing. It really does. When you mentioned the offering to Native American spirits for taking something, while Dave and I were in Sedona, Dave had scheduled to go to the Hopi tribe with a guide. So we got special permission to come to meet a medicine man as well. Right. He was going to be our tour. He's a really awesome guy. His Americanized name was Alan. I don't know. Dave probably remembers what his medicine man name is, but I don't think like that. But when we were, it was kind of a far drive from Sedona. But when we got close, our tour guide, I should say middleman guy, he pulled over. Clint was his name. And, he said we have to pay offering, so he gave us each a little bit of tobacco, and,
right.
He did a little, chant, to the spirits, told us, whenever we were ready, we could put our tobacco down. And so, I sat down, and, I put the, tobacco down. And as I was sitting there, I was kind of like, I don't know what to say. And what came to me was surrender. Just surrender in life, right? To let go, because we can't control everything. And so I thought, oh, well, that's, really powerful, right? That's amazing. And so we get back in the car, and we start driving, and Clint drives these roads like a madman. And these roads are windy and twisty and hilly. And oh my God, I thought I was going to throw up at some points. And I was scared at some points. But it's, he's used to the roads, right? So he don't care. And shortly after leaving there, I started to see this Birdman, like this image of a Birdman.
Wow.
And I forget what it's called again. And Dave can chime in because I know he's watching. If he posts it out there, I'll throw it onto the screen. And at first I was kind of like, well, that's kind of cool. And then when we walked into this medicine man's house,
there was a Birdman.
It was a Birdman there. And it was their, who he, prays to. It was his, it was his spirit. So it was pretty awesome. So Elizabeth is my mom. Thunderbird is what it was called.
Okay.
Dave came over and yelled it out. Classic Kachina, he said.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth just posted, which is my mom, by the way. Hi, Mom. My dad's on here, too. Hi, Dad. My mom was saying, why tobacco? So I'll let you answer that because you would know more than what I would explain.
Well, I think that tobacco is part of one of the crops from the first people, from the Native Americans, and it was a gift from Earth Mother or Pachamama. So I think you're returning what she has gifted you with to her.
Now, if you don't have tobacco, let's say, could you use anything?
I mean, you could just do a simple prayer. Thank you for letting me walk upon you. Thank you for granting me this beautiful day. Thank you for whatever you want to thank them for. Mm-hmm. Thank you for these breathtaking. Whatever you want to say is fine.
Okay, and I
think the important thing is that you speak from the heart. The important thing is things have to come from the heart.
And that is extremely important, that you're not just saying the words, right? You actually feel this way. And so, like, doing these things and walking around, it's like, does that mean, from this day forward, we should be walking around and being like, thank you for letting me walk on, thank. And, one of the things that I'm sure you probably would agree with is it's not like just walking around to do that, but when it comes to mind, right?
Yes.
So don't stress yourself out that you're not doing this and you're not practicing this way of being. But if you want to get into it, start out by, if it comes to mind, thank the sky, thank the sun, thank the water, like just be there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is, it comes down to gratitude as well. For some of us, we wake up in the morning and, the alarm goes off, you slap it down, you jump into the shower, you're out of your house in a half hour and you're on, it's like overdrive, boom, 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 boom. For some people, it's, okay, so the alarm went off. I'm going to lay in bed for a little while. I may offer some prayers. I may not. But for me, whenever I let my dog out, be it 6:30 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock or whatever, I always look up at the sky. If it's a sunny day, I can feel the sun on my face. And I give thanks to Father Sky and Earth Mother. I offer prayers for my family, my kids. I also offer prayers for people who are suffering. In body, mind, and spirit, because there are lots of people out there right now who are suffering, and I don't know all the people, but it's a global prayer, especially now in the midst of this pandemic, to offer prayers to them, that they be healed in whatever way in body, mind, and spirit. And I also offer gratitude, because given today, we have a lot to look for, and what I try and teach people in my classes is that everybody wants. I want this, I want that. And what I taught my kids was the difference between want and need. Mm-hmm. And rather than being, oh my God, I don't have this, I don't have that. Think about what you do have. Mm-hmm. And be grateful for what you do have, because there are people in this world who don't have what you have, mm-hmm. who really would want what you have.
Yeah, another powerful statement. Because if we're not looking at what we want and we're looking at what we need, then that drive,
correct,
that constant drive to have more money, have more things,
correct,
way,
correct. Yeah. The other thing that is important is self-forgiving, and there's also a wonderful fourth-term thing called Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I am not, no.
It's from the Huna tradition in Hawaii, and it's 4 statements, and it goes, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, thank you. And the important thing is, because when you forgive yourself, when you forgive others, you really forgive yourself. And it could be in any situation. It could be a situation with the pandemic. It could be a situation where you're having a hard time dealing with somebody. It could be any number of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that would be, something to think about doing, because that help grounds you.
Yes.
And a lot of times too, you can also think about when you're in a situation, what brought the situation to me? And what is the situation trying to teach me?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at that too. So, I know we started late, but I know you're also very busy because of your schedule.
No, but that's okay.
So make sure you're okay. So when you say so what kind of services do you currently offer, especially during COVID and the pandemic?
Okay, a lot of things are Zoom. A lot of things are through phone or through Zoom. People can go to my webpage, my Facebook page, which is Iris-Valkyrie Dragon Rider. And that image came to me when I was talking with someone else in India who did a starseed DNA activation for me. And I had this image of me riding a dragon. And there's something so cool about dragons.
I just
They're
put
just
it up
such
there
neat.
for you so that way people can see it.
Okay, they're such neat creatures. So I have a Facebook page that people can join. I have to approve you. And there's lots of giveaways. Today's giveaway was affirmation cards to the first 10 people who responded. I took a card deck and everyone got an affirmation for the day. Next month is my birthday month, so there'll be giveaways for maybe a free journey or maybe a chakra healing. So I just offered an intro. I just did an intro to chakra course, which was last week. I can help people clear their chakras. I can teach you about chakras. I can help you with beliefs, help you talk to your inner child and hear your inner child. Help you deal with some body issues. Because for some of us, we don't overly love our bodies, and that could be in terms of chakra work or belief work.
Mm-hmm.
For example, have you ever talked to your heart? Have you ever talked to your stomach? Have you ever talked to your legs? If we think about the root chakra, for example, and this ties into beliefs, the root chakra is the foundation, and it's really as strong as it can be. And if you think of a large building going up, that building is only as strong as its foundation.
Mm.
And if it's a strong, solid foundation and built well, it's going to last forever. But if the foundation's rocky, it's going to come crashing down. And that's very similar with your root chakra. That's the foundation of which you stand. And if your legs aren't supporting you, if your feet and back aren't supporting you, what does that say? And what are some of those underlying issues? So, for example, were you supported as a child? Did you feel nurtured? Did you feel respected? And how you can deal with those issues as well.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of combination of energy work, including theta healing, a little bit of Reiki, chakra clearing, and also shamanic journeys.
Wonderful.
As well.
So if somebody wanted to schedule, they would contact you through the Facebook, which I did put above your head, Facebook, and then your tag. Okay. So you can't see
it.
You
can also email me. I'll give you my email address is Iris, IRISCRNP @gmail.com.
Okay. I'm just adding that in there as well.
And I think too, because we're in a pandemic and because we're in interesting times, and some people are suffering and some are not. My fees are fairly flexible, so that I don't want people to feel compelled that, oh my God, I really want to do this, but things are not great right now.
Okay.
So even if someone can afford, let's say, $10 or $25, I'm willing to work with people around those issues.
Okay. That's
because
very helpful.
Just because there's financial instability right now with lots of people, and I certainly do get that.
Yeah. And this pandemic definitely pushed a lot of people to either embrace, that what's happening and kind of take a step back to reevaluate their life in a lot of ways, or they're not doing that, So you're seeing like kind of two divides here. And so for those that are struggling, this is a wonderful opportunity. And I really appreciate you offering that to our viewers here.
And a lot of it, Bonnie, too, is, panic mode. I mean, people are, it doesn't matter what kind of work you do. You could be in healthcare. I mean, I was furloughed for a number of weeks because patients weren't coming in. Mm-hmm. So you get into this panic mode of like, oh my God, how am I going to survive? And then if you take a step back and kind of relax a bit and take a deep breath, rather than looking at it like with blinders, if you extend your scope, you may get to see the bigger picture.
Okay, wonderful.
Because when you're in that panic mode, you may not see all the options.
Which is so true. I mean, how many times have we all, just anybody looking back, didn't see something or didn't take something in because we were too focused here,
Right.
and how quickly that can go so bad.
And then when someone says to you, have you thought about, and you're looking at A and B, you're looking at 1 + 2 equal, let's say you're looking at 2 + 2 = 4, and that's the only option you see. And then someone said, oh, but Bonnie, did you know that 1 + 3 = 4,
Right.
or that 4 + 0 = 4? Then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. That other
No,
perspective that we didn't
yeah,
see.
the
Yeah.
paradigm. I mean, think about doing a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, this is really shitty, but let me try and switch it around a bit, because what's the gift in this?
Mm-hmm.
I really try and look at the gift in things. Like, if things aren't going my way, it's like, okay, so somewhere in the midst of this madness, there's got to be a gift here.
Exactly. Just taking my son's death, with Morgan.
Yeah.
If he didn't die, I would not have pursued a mental health degree, just to incorporate into the business to truly treat the mind, body, and the soul,
Right.
and work with kids especially to avoid, substance abuse and suicide, which I've lost in my family as well. My niece, she killed herself 2 years before Morgan died. So, like, if you could take this terrible situation, and some people, would crumble and die from it. And honestly, if I wasn't on the journey I'm on and doing the spiritual work that I've been doing, I probably would have been one of those people after losing my son. I don't know how I would have been standing either. So, spiritualism, regardless of belief systems and where we sit on the fence, comes in so many shapes and forms, and that perspective is just another perspective. And if we can,
And I will share this with you. My mom had, before she transitioned, she had fallen in Florida, and we, of course, flew down to see her, and she was getting better and everything was fine. And then we left on a Sunday, and my mom was transferred from the hospital to a nursing care facility, and she was in her mid to late 80s. And I didn't like the way she looked that Sunday when I left. And I said to my husband, if things don't get better, I'm going to call and have her go back to the hospital. So we flew home Super Bowl Sunday, and of course we had to wait for luggage, and we didn't get home until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was, of course, had to go to work the next day, and my phone rang at 5:30 in the morning, and there was a physician calling that my mom had decompensated and had aspirated pneumonia, and things didn't look good. And I had medical power of attorney, and I had to make the decision, because I knew that my mom was a DNR, and I had to make the decision to just make her comfortable.
mm-hmm.
And then her doctor called, and it was my decision to put her in hospice. But the interesting thing was, she was in hospice for 5 days. She transitioned on a Friday. But what was interesting was, my sister had flown down to bring my dad back to Philly. The minute the plane touched down in Philly, my mom transitioned.
Mm.
So she knew that my dad was safe in Philly.
Yeah.
And a couple of months later, about 6 months later, at my niece's wedding, my nephew was very upset. And he goes, he still was very upset with my mother transitioning. And because we were all very close to my parents. And he goes, I can't believe that my mom died by herself.
Mm.
And I said, Jay, my mom didn't die by herself. I said, my mom was the angels were with my mom when she transitioned. And he looked at me and I said, Jay, you have to believe. You just have to believe that my mom wasn't alone. And on the spiritual journey, she was accompanied by the angels. And they took her to her parents, and they took her to Gail, and they took her to her brother. And she went with grace and dignity. And he looked at me and he was crying. I said, Jay, you just have to know that this is okay.
Yeah.
And, I firmly believe that. Like, if you think about it, yes, it was horrible that my mom passed. Would I have liked to spend more time with her? Absolutely. But, things happen for a reason. And, I firmly believe that she was she was accompanied when she made that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, with my spiritual stuff, I know that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's one thing, like you said, like you wish knowing that, and people could look at this and say, well, you kind of saw it happen, so why didn't you stay? Right. The thing is we still have to live. We still have
Correct.
responsibilities. We still have financial obligations and things like
Yeah.
that. So if we knew somebody was dying, including my son, like why wasn't I warned, right? I would have changed things in such a way that wasn't meant to be.
Correct.
And I truly believe that, you know. And, you know, when we know this information, we will change our lives
Yes.
to make that not happen or to be there until the day they died, which doesn't help us in any way. So,
And the beauty with ancestral healing, just digressing a little bit, is that you can change generations, 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. So if there's an issue of addiction in your family, if there's an issue of financial instability or whatever in your family, you can go back and clear that and ask relatives what happened and do some cord cutting and then bring it forward to clear those generations in the future.
I'll have to tell my brother to reach out to you because he always so we're Canes,
Right.
Kane, and my brother always says from day one that he feels we all have bad luck as
Why?
Canes because we are the first murderers that we stem back to Cain and Abel.
But you're spelling wrong.
It is spelled differently, but through time, things, because, as Irish immigrants and stuff like that, we dropped the O's, the names
Right.
changed a little here and there. But it's funny because every time he says that, it's like, he truly, in some ways believes that, so, and if the ancestral healing and stuff could actually transpire.
And I mean, we're not going to do this now, but it'd be so interesting to see where that belief pattern came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm going to tell him to reach out to you to talk to you about our his idea about our ancestral lines, and where it comes from, the bad luck, so to speak.
And how you can not break it, but how you can go back and really clarify things and ask things, because maybe the messages he's getting is discordant versus the way it really was.
Right.
Because we all perceive things differently, Bonnie. I mean, if you and I took a nature walk together, I'd see things, you would see things, yet we're on the same nature walk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of my favorite things is you can't walk into the same river twice. And we also have the ripple effect. If you do something, it ripples outward.
Yeah.
So for every act of kindness you do, that's going to have an effect elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
pay it forward, so to speak, mentality.
Pay it forward, exactly. So be curious to see where that notion came from.
Yeah, I am too. So I'll see if he'll do it. Now, would you do, in this case, is it always individuals, or if I can only get my brother to do it if we were both on the call, would you do multiple people?
I can do it for both of you. What I cannot do is, for example, you saying to me, I want you to do a journey for my brother.
Okay.
Because shamanism and any kind of healing modality, there's integrity built in.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot journey, you cannot do anything for anybody without their permission.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to leave your listeners with that. If someone says to you, I'm a healer and I can heal your mother, they can't. That's not being true to yourself. Yes, if someone's in a coma and if someone cannot give consent, you can hold their hand, you can visualize them, you can ask them and see what messages you get. Because there are some people who just don't want to heal. They know it's their time and they don't want to heal. If people can give you consent, yes. And there are some people who do want to go through some healing and some people who don't. But, I can't offer a healing session for somebody if I don't have their consent.
So if we were both on the call though, because he wants to do it and I was kind of like just listening in, is that something you recommend or don't recommend?
No, that's fine. But as long as he said to me, I would say to him, let's say his name is Mark. Mark, do I have your permission to do a journey for you and to clarify things? And he goes, absolutely. That's fine.
Okay.
But if he said no and you go, oh, yes, he does. That's can't do that, Bonnie.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense. It's the stuff I tell people all the time, that, you have to be willing. That's the thing. Even if you're not certain, but you're willing to try.
Right.
You have to have that. I do group, readings, and I always find it interesting. There's always that one person in the group who's,
yeah,
prove to me, say me every name of my family that's dead, the birth dates, everything. Otherwise, I don't believe anything that you're saying. And I tend to ignore those people because the energy, it's harder to pull from them, and I just don't want to deal with it. But usually by the end of the thing, they're like, "Oh my God, how did she know all that stuff?" You know what I mean? So, but yet they weren't willing to participate, and I'm not going to work with that. So I completely understand. Yeah.
And then for me, it's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, if you're so resistant, and if you're so, if this doesn't resonate with you, then why did you just take a precious 2 hours from your time today to sit here and be belligerent and angry and pissed off?
Yes. Yeah. Now, would it take, like, I was going to ask you earlier about the time, like times, like how much time should somebody plan for any kind of session?
Um, some, I would say an hour.
Okay.
Sometimes I do things in advance. Like if someone sends me their intention ahead of time, I need clarification for this, whatever. I'll do a journey ahead of time and then either Zoom with you or call you back and say, this is what I found. Does this resonate with you? Let's just do some more deep work and see.
Okay. So think an hour.
Yeah, it really just depends because it's all individual. You know, it's
Now,
all.
if you felt like it was going to take more than an hour,
Yeah,
would you tell
we,
them like in
we
advance?
break it
Like,
up.
okay.
Yeah, we break it up. I mean, I would say to someone, I'm working with someone right now. She wants it. She's in the middle of doing lots of major work regarding chakra clearing and beliefs, and it's a lot.
Mm.
So we meet every week.
Okay.
And sometimes it's for a half hour. Sometimes it's for 45 minutes. Sometimes it's just a quick check-in, like, did you do your affirmations today? How did you practice self-care today? You know, what issues came up today that kind of threw you off base a little bit?
Mm. Okay.
And what did you do to get to ground yourself and get yourself back on track?
And so that's great to know for the individual sides of it. What about the classes? How big's the class? Do you run them certain times, or you only run them when you have enough interest? How does that work?
No, I mean, it was so funny because I was guided to do a class on introduction to the chakra system. And I just did a Zoom class, and there were 8 people on that. And people asked questions, and that was a freebie class, and that was it.
Okay.
Sometimes I get messages like you. I'm sure you get messages too. It's like, yeah, pull cards today from the affirmation desk, or pull cards today, or have people pick out a crystal and see what it says. So stuff just crops up, and I post it on the Facebook group.
Okay, so the Facebook page is really where to follow to see where
Correct.
these things might pop up and these opportunities.
Yeah, so again, it's Iris-Valkyrie Dragon Rider.
Yes, which I put on the top for people so they can see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can also, email me, like I said before.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, this is all great. And I love that you keep using the word resonate. Because regardless of where somebody's at, right? Whether it's what's going on in their life, whether it's belief systems, especially, being raised, one of the biggest ones is being raised Catholic, right? Catholic religion.
I was born Jewish, by hello.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. These very strict religions, about belief systems and things like that.
You can change that, body.
I know. And the thing is like, I always tell people that when they come to me and they're like, well, that's against my belief system, I always say to them, but does it resonate within you? I use that same word because even I've had somebody say, like, you could tell me anything about a past life, just like you could say anything about, their journey.
Right.
Does it resonate? Resonate's the key word. Because if it does, then it's true or somewhat true. And you have to navigate what is. Because I know people that follow some people, like, regarding the 5th dimension, right? I'm sure you've heard of that. And I know people who, like, follow it to, like, sometimes a damaging perspective where they're just hook, line, and sinker, and yet that's great. But there's some avenues here that maybe you should question a little bit. What resonates with you, what doesn't, So I like that you use that word a lot, especially in this, because it's so important.
And the interesting thing is, I went to a Jewish day school. Some people go to Catholic school. What belief systems are you spilling forth?
Mm-hmm.
And is it your own belief systems, or it's something that the rabbi or the sister or the priest taught you when you were 6? and you were so terrified. I mean, I remember being in synagogue for Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the Jewish year. You fast for 26 hours. And that's when, you're really written in the book of life. And, if you're not written in the book of life, so to speak, you're not going to live that year. And I remember being probably 6 or 7 years old and living in New York. And the rabbi got up there and he was basically, screaming at the congregation, because you stand for an hour, the last hour, and you really pouring your heart out and you're praying. And when you're 6 or 7, you're very impressionable. And the rabbi got up and was literally screaming at the congregation, the gates of heaven are closing. And if you don't pray with the deepest convictions that you have in your heart, you're not going to live for next year. And I was 6 or 7, and I was terrified because, and I'm 66, I'll be 66. And I still remember that from 60 years ago, because it was just so terrifying. Like, oh my God, if God doesn't hear my prayers, or if I'm not deserving enough, I'm not going to be here next year.
Yeah. And that ripple effect you were talking about, like that.
And then of course, you get over that as you get older. But you think of people who never cleared all this stuff, or who never thought about, is this really my belief system, or is this my belief system from when I was 6 years old? And healing that inner child, because the inner child at 7 is not the person who you are now. Yeah. And I do some work with the inner child as well.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's I know for myself some of the stuff, the issues I have, still to this day, because I am a firm believer, as long as you're alive, you have to work on your issues, all the time. Yes, you can chip away at them and they could be gone for a while, but they'll surface again at some point with certain things. But yeah, my inner child, I definitely is holding me back a little bit right now. So
we can work on that, Bonnie.
Yeah, I know. I'll schedule. I'm definitely going to schedule.
And another thing, I'm just going to leave you with this because it's next week. I mean, next August 3rd, which is my birthday, yay me.
Happy early birthday.
Is a new moon. And you guys can, to go outside, make a list of stuff you want to get rid of. Make a list of stuff that you want to shed, or make a list of stuff that you're grateful for. And if it's stuff that you want to get rid of, get out there, make a list, and what I sometimes do is I offer prayers of, I'm getting rid of this. I'm sending it out to the universe. I want this gone and forever. And I burn the piece of paper and then watch it just go up. And I send it away. And then sometimes I'll write positive affirmations and positive things for the future, knowing that they're going to happen, hopefully. Well, that they're going to happen, period. And I leave them outside with my crystals overnight.
Okay.
So, the moon's really powerful. And there's lots of stuff on Facebook or on YouTube on how you can, what you do with the new month.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what time is it? Yep, we're hitting a little over, so...
I'm sorry about it.
No, you're fine. I'm fine. Our listeners could stop if they need to. But I want to thank you very much for coming on and talking about this stuff and explaining ways that it can help, which sounds like it can help in various ways, with not only looking at our ancestral stuff, but then also our inner child and our ailments that we're having a hard time to get over and get past, but also comes down to acceptance and willing. So it's not necessarily, you have to be on a Reiki path or a shamanism path in any way. It's just another modality of healing, which is what I like to try and do. And what I've been trying to do is get other people on who has some modality of healing. So I thank you for coming on here. And if there's any questions that people ask me after the fact, I will forward it on to you so you can respond to them.
Thanks so much for your patience with that whole Skype thing.
Oh, it was my side. There was anybody who's doing anything with, I'm using Ecamm. If everybody's wondering how I'm posting across a bunch of platforms at once and seeing everybody's posts, no matter where they're at, it's through this app called Ecamm. And there's this little setting in Skype that you have to make sure is turned on. Otherwise, it won't come on here. So, but happy early birthday, Iris.
And then we'll be in touch and we'll chat.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Look forward to it.
Yes. And you can hang on for a brief moment if you want. Otherwise, if you jump off, that's fine. But for everybody that's watching, so next Saturday, I'm going to have a guest speaker as well. Before taking a break and doing probably some spiritual readings and things like that the following Saturday. But next Saturday, I have A gentleman by the name of Argyle Goolsby. He is a musician. He is a composer. He's an artist. He's a lot of things. And those that know him and follow him, he's been in the band world for quite a while. He is somebody that I enjoy being around. And we're going to talk ghost stories. He's traveled the world. And I asked him to come on so we could chit chat because, you know, he's got some interesting stories just as I do. So next week is going to be this Argyle Goolsby is his stage name. And he'll talk about a little bit like his music, but he's more of like a, I would label it this way, which I'd have to look to see what he would say, but it's more of like a punk horror aspect. Like he comes out with like, you know, vampire teeth, and his videos are definitely goth and stuff like that. So he's an excellent person, wonderful personality, on stage and off, and he will be our guest speaker next week. So I'm looking forward to talking some ghost stories. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Have a good one.
Bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.